Hello friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Danny and today we're going to be talking about which books I would want with me if I got deserted on an island. I had a friend pose this question to me and it was a really kind of fun thought experiment for myself. If you were on a ship and somehow got shipwrecked on a deserted island, so no one else is with you, you were the only person around and there's kind of no hope of being saved. And we're not talking about we want survival manuals or anything like that. What would you take for entertainment? If you could only choose 5 books that you were going to have, and these are the only 5 books that you could potentially be reading for the rest of your life, because as I said, there's no guarantees that you get rescued, what books would you choose? So as I go through my answers, I really want you guys to think about your own and leave me your answers in the comments down below. I would love to chat with you guys about why you made the decisions that you did, because I know that this was really hard for me to make. And then at the end of the video, I'm also going to tell you guys if I could only choose one of these, if I had to whittle it down to just one book that I could read for the rest of my life on this deserted island, which one would I pick? So I want you guys to be thinking about that. And yeah, let me know in the comments. As you guys know, I am a bit of a series girly, and that's really hard for this particular prompt because I can't take an entire series with me. Otherwise, that entire series is a big chunk, if not all of my slots that I have for these books. And so with that, I only picked 2 series. So out of the 5 books I'm going to tell you guys, only 2 of them are involving in series, and I only am allowed to bring the book that I'm telling you I'm bringing. So, I mean, I feel like I'm sacrificing quite a bit. So the first of those, the first of the books that I have that are series is The Way of Kings. So Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson is one of my all-time favorite series, and I have just had such a fun time getting to know the characters in this series. And I know that it's not a popular opinion that The Way of Kings is the best of the 5 books, or 4 books so far. And I disagree. I think The Way of Kings is the best of the 4. I have reread this book 3 or 4 times at this point in time. It is very nostalgic for me, and I never get bored. There are always little bits and elements that I will either have forgotten about or not noticed the first time around, and so I do think that I would have a fun time, you know, in the bad circumstance that I do get deserted on an island. I think that this book would bring me a little bit of cheer and a little bit of relaxation because of the fact that it is a little bit of a comfort read for me. If you haven't heard of the Stormlight Archive, I don't know how I can describe this series to you. Brandon Sanderson is a prolific fantasy author, and I really need to stop rereading his books because he writes faster than I read. And so I'm never going to catch up in the Cosmere, but this is one of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere books, Cosmere series. And this book features a whole bunch of different characters, but the main character of this storyline is Kaladin. And he starts out as a slave, and you get to see his story as a slave, and you also get to find out the backstory as how he got there, and within his slavery and where he ends up, there is this massive war going on between humans and another race, and him being a slave, he gets kind of put in the middle of it and becomes a leader amongst some of his peers, and you get to see in this really immaculate, vast world and with this amazing magic system how everything comes into play and how he kind of grows into his own character. The Stormlight Archive is so much bigger than that, but that's general premise for the first book. I absolutely love Kaladin. He is my favorite character by far of the Stormlight Archive, and I can't wait for the series to continue. But if I had to choose, this would be the one from this series that I would take with me. The second book that is in a series that I will be taking with me is The Mask of Mirrors, which is right here. It's the middle one. And actually, I think I might be making a split decision right now and actually changing my pick. I think I'm actually going to go with The Liar's Knot, which is the second book in the series. Is that weird for me to take the second book? So the reason I chose this series to begin with is because this series is very complex. It has complex magic systems, but it also has complex linguistics in it as well. There's an entire dictionary at the back of these books because of how many fantastical words were created in its development, and I freaking love that. But I will say, because of that aspect, the book is rather slow reading for me, and I think that that would be fantastic in this scenario because I have all the time in the world. I can take my time with it, and I can really dig into all of the different elements. The reason I am choosing the second book is, as I think back to my reading experience with this, I do think the second book was my favorite, and I think because I have finished the series, I know what happens, and I think I would be okay with starting where the first book ends and just reading that middle book. I might be making a mistake, but all of my favorite scenes from the series, although I don't know, the ending book was really good too. I'm gonna stick with my answer though. The Liar's Knot is what I'm choosing. There is one scene in particular in this book that has two of the main characters and a kitten, and that is, oh, it was so cute. It was like my favorite book, or my favorite series, or oh my goodness, my favorite scene from this series. And I liked this whole series. If you've never heard me talk about The Mask of Mirrors, which is the first book in the series, you follow a character named Rin, who is a con artist, and she is trying to convince a noble family that she is part of the family so she can essentially inherit their fortune and run off with it. And you get to see, it's a Venetian setting as well, you get to see her develop friendships and family within the nobility and within the circumstance that she's put herself in that she did not expect. And oh my gosh, the found family elements in this are just amazing, and the character work is absolutely fantastic. There are a couple of characters throughout the series that grow, and I'm not going to say their names because I don't want to spoil anything in the first book, and these characters do kind of have a massive character arc, but I think they shine in the second book as well. And so yeah, I think I would take the second book with me if I was going to choose one from the series. Next, on to the books that are not in series. The first one is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I chose this book because every time I read this book, it is so heartwarming and fantastical and whimsical to me that it puts me in the best of moods. Even though the story is heartbreaking and there are aspects of Addie LaRue's life that are absolutely horrible, the way that she goes through her life, the adventures that she goes on, how she deals with the situation that she is in is just inspiring to me. And this book is just beautifully written. So even without me loving the storyline and me loving her character, I love the way it was written, and I can find myself getting lost in this story over and over and over again. If you haven't heard of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, you follow Addie LaRue, who is born in the 1500s, I think, and she has this experience where her father is wanting her to get married. She does not want to get married, and she essentially makes a deal with a very dark entity that she will not have to get married. But the purpose or the backlash of making this deal is that no one remembers her. So she will be talking with someone and having a conversation, and as soon as that person leaves the room or Addie gets out of eyeshot, that person will forget that Addie ever existed. And so she can live forever, but she has to deal with no one actually remembering her name. And so this book deals with a lot of remembrance and legacy thoughts that humans have, and wanting to have people that remember you, and wanting to feel loved and have purpose within that as well. And you get to see Addie strive to be remembered even though she knows she won't be. I dearly love this book, and this would definitely be one that I would be taking with me. The next book might come as a surprise to you guys. I'm going to bring You Let Me In by Camilla Bruce. So this is not a book I hear a lot of people talk about, and I think about this book all of the time. I wanted a little bit of scary to bring with me because I wanted a little bit of variety, and this is also semi-fantasy as well, and so I still have all my fantasy reads, but I wanted something a little creepy. And I decided to bring this along. I think this book would be fantastic to reread over and over again because there are little facets in this book that I don't think you're going to catch the first time around. And this book also has an ending that is not exactly an answer, and it definitely leaves things up to the reader. And I think that reading it over and over and over again would allow you to analyze where you lie at the end. If you haven't ever heard of this book, you follow, I can't remember the author's name, but the main character in this book is an author, and she has written a manuscript that outlines her life. So it's essentially her memoirs. And she leaves it to her niece and her nephew, and they are going to inherit her entire estate because she has been missing. She's been missing for 7 years, and so she essentially gets pronounced dead. When she's pronounced dead, the niece and nephew get called into the lawyer's office, and the lawyer says, you have to go to her cabin out in the middle of the woods and read her last manuscript. And as soon as you do that, you can come back and I will give you all of her estate. And so they go to the cabin and they start reading the book, and you are reading the book with them. And so you get to see her story through her eyes. And this is definitely a book of, you don't know if the narrator is reliable. There are things that are happening and entities that are within this lady's life that are causing her to make the decisions that she's making that you don't know are real. And the book, Camilla Bruce does such a good job of going back and forth on essentially giving you a realistic reason of why she's made this decision, and then giving you a fantastical reason that she's made this decision. And you have to figure out, which one do you believe? Do you believe the realism, or do you believe these things, these entities that are making her make these decisions are actually occurring? And it's just fantastic. I absolutely love this book, and it would be one that's going with me. The last book on my list of 5 is a cozy read. I chose Thornhedge. So it's short, so if I just want something that maybe I can read in a little bit of time, I don't have maybe I'm just wanting a bedtime story or something that I can kind of relax myself before I go to sleep on the beach at night, I would choose this book. This is a story, it's a Sleeping Beauty retelling, and it is fantasy horror, but it's very light on the horror, and the main character, Toadling, is just such a sweet character, and I freaking love her. I love how she thinks that being mean is tying people's hair in knots, and she just has such a wonderful personality. I loved reading about her. You follow her character watching a tower, and you don't know why she's watching this tower, why she is worried about people entering the tower, what she's trying to protect them from, and you learn that as you go through the story. And there is a soldier character that is also trying to get in the tower, and so she interacts with him throughout the story, and you get to hear her backstory and her current story. You get to see her through time and sitting and watching this tower and seeing the centuries roll by, and it's just lovely, and I wanted something cozy to bring along with me. So the time has come for me to tell you, if I did have to choose one of these books, so I couldn't take 5, I only got 1, which one would I want with me? And this was a really hard decision because I absolutely love all 5 of these books. And I would want more than one book to read. But I don't have that option. So after talking to you guys about all of these, I think the book I would choose is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's the one I would choose. And my reasoning is that book, I have reread that book a couple of times, and every time I read it, it surprises me. I always think that the first time I read it, it was really a bad time. It was during COVID, and I really just needed an escape, and that book was what I needed it to be when I needed it to be. And I thought that maybe that was the reason I loved it so much. But after rereading it, that's not why. I mean, yes, that is going to be part of the reason why I will always love that book, but it's not the only reason. That book is fantastic, and it makes me happy. And that's what I would want on a deserted island, is something that would help me find a little bit of joy and be able to escape my circumstances for a little bit, which is exactly what that book does. So yeah, that would be my choice. Let me know. I know this is kind of like a goofy little video, but I thought it was kind of a fun thought experiment for myself, and I would like you guys to try it as well. Let me know what your answers were down in the comments down below, and let me know your reasoning for them. Are you being more strategic in your picks? Are you being varied? Are you just choosing your favorites? I want to know, what's your thought process on this? Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I'll see you in the next one.